Hello and welcome to the very first webcast by Octane Marketing Private Limited. Today, we are going to be talking about the importance of email marketing, the best practices around email marketing, and the various do's and don'ts from two industry leading experts. We have with us today Mr. Nitin Raj, Vice President of Marketing at Yebhi.com, and we also have Mr. Samat Saxena, COO and co founder of Octane Marketing Private Limited. So, to kick things off, let us start with the first question, which is at the heart of what we're trying to do here. So the question is, why is email marketing so important?
Certainly. So I would like to thank you for the opportunity given to me to speak over here. The reason why email marketing is so important is it's one of the most proactive channel. It is cheaper than any other advertising medium available today. Email stays in your inbox and you can visit it anytime in the future. That's why email marketing is so important.
So from a perspective of somebody who's receiving a lot of emails, how do you think the effectiveness of your campaign gets affected within that mass volume sort of a scenario?
You have to connect with the subscriber of your email. So don't spam. When I say connect, address the user by their name. So if the user is Nitin, so tell them, Nitin, we have an offer for you. Don't state like dear member, blah, blah, blah.
So it's about personalized engagement.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, at the heart of Sam, what you also believe in. So if I am to ask you directly, why do you think email marketing is so important?
Yeah, so email marketing certainly is very important and very relevant when it comes to ROI. According to DMA, which is a US based association, they did a research and they came out with a number that for every dollar spent, you are able to generate an ROI of around $40, which may not be relevant for Indian market as of now, but I'm sure going forward, when we have good internet connection in tier 2, tier 3 cities as well, we are going to hit that number.
Right. So now, obviously, when you're doing email marketing, it's very important for A, you yourself to know what you're doing, and B, working with a partner organization who is also competent to a level that can do justice to your campaigns. So Nitin, if I can ask you, as an email marketer, as a digital marketer, what is it that you're looking for in professional ESPs when you're going about, to select them for your various campaigns?
The two most important things when we're looking out for an ESP, one, the location of the ESP, and B, the best practices the ESP follow. When I mean location, so if my target audience is based in India, then I need to select an ESP based in India because they would have IP addresses of India. They'll be sending emails from an Indian server. When I talk about best practices in email, security is critical in terms of protecting data of my company. B, when they're sending out HTML emails, then they need to guide a company like us if we're making any fault so that the spam score is less and the emails don't land up in a spam folder, rather inbox. So these are the two critical things that I would look for.
So what this essentially means is that ESPs need to give active guidance and insights so that they can guide better their clients towards the success of their campaigns.
Absolutely. The ROI is critical. So if a campaign is planned and we expect an ROI in terms of open rate and click-through ratio, this is an expectation as a client I would have towards the ESP.
Right. So now this, Samarth, is coming, from the perspective of a client, of somebody who's doing email marketing campaigns. From a perspective of a professional ESP, what are the aspirational levels that you set for yourselves as a company?
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with what Nitin just said. I would just like to add some pointers here that, we are at a stage right now where we have scarcity of IPv4. So while choosing an ESP, you have to make sure that you get a good pool of IPs, of whitelisted IPs. And if you are on a shared pool, then you have to ask the ESP about the same, because if some complaint is happening for some other client who is sharing your IP addresses, then the IP reputation is going down. It is going to impact your campaign as well.
So my understanding here is that email marketers have certain expectations from the ESP, which the ESP aspires to sort of fulfill. So in your experience, Sam, how receptive do you think your clients are towards sort of listening to what you might be sharing and then actively implementing said suggestions?
Yeah, so India being a nascent market right now, when we started 5 years back, nobody was, able to follow best practices of email marketing. Customer support and training is what, is very important in this domain, especially in India. Over the cloud, you can provide services, but customer support and training is something that you will have to handhold your clients and take them towards the best practices of email marketing.
Would you sort of agree with that, Nathan? You think there's scope to educate email marketers, digital marketers in India more towards that? You think majority of digital marketers might be actively, pursuing the knowledge of best practices here in India, or might be receptive to getting such guidance from ESPs?
See, email marketing, lot of email marketers are still not following the best practices. I feel there's huge scope of improvement that exists even now. When I look at a lot of emails that end up in my spam folder, a lot of basic things are missing. And I think it's primarily, I would say, it's ESP's job to spoon feed email marketers and handhold them to the next steps, because a lot of things are changing every day. ESPs are evolving, email service providers are evolving, IP addresses are getting blacklisted.
Now, you've worked in the United Kingdom, you've worked in the United States, and now you're actively working in India. How is the email marketing industry here? How is it evolving here vis-a-vis the other places that you've sort of had experience in?
Email marketing is still evolving in India because we still don't have strict spam act in India. We have open markets in India where you get access to a lot of databases. Cyber law is pretty weak right now in India. What was happening back in 2001, 2002 in US and UK is happening in India right now. And I think in the next 3 or 4 years, India will also evolve. And it's a great opportunity for email marketers and ESP to evolve together.
Right. And this is very interesting because, as I understand, Sam, this is also a primary concern for you.
Octane does a research every year. In last year's research, we asked a question about no spamming and can spam laws in India. And, most of the people said that along with IAMAI and responsible ESPs like Octane, people would like to, have strict can spam laws, because with smartphones becoming cheaper, email is your new SMS nowadays. So definitely we have to work together. The ESP associations like IAMAI as well as my clients will have to work together towards it.
Right. Okay. So now, if I can sort of take us back towards the best practices that we were talking about, let's talk a little bit about email design best practices, as in content layout. What do you think are the very basic things that email marketers should follow?
So the image to text ratio is something which is very relevant. It is relevant because, if your campaign is image heavy, and if I'm talking about tier 2 and tier 3 cities where you don't have great internet connection speed, the campaign is going to take a lot of time to load. So it is very important to make sure that your campaign is not too much image heavy, loads faster, and even if it has images, you should give alt tag to it so that if the image does not load, at least the alt tag should mention what's there in the image.
Right. So Nitin, that's ESP talking. As somebody who actively creates and sends campaigns, what would your advice be to, say, fellow email marketers?
I think visual element is very important. Though I agree that it should not be image heavy, I would say stick to less than 100 kilobyte if possible. For content layout, I would say your email design should be as close to your website layout so people can relate to it. There is brand reinforcement when somebody sees your email and sees your website.
So there's consistency.
Yes, and it's also easy navigation. So if somebody has been to your website, they know where the links are. And when they see in your email, they know where the links are.
So, but as we all know, I mean, the layout and design is just one aspect of it. There are other things that need, active consideration, such as the subject line and, how it is that you're sort of setting up the campaign. We had briefly touched upon personalization of emails before. So, Nitin, if again, we can sort of perhaps expand upon that a little bit.
So how it works is with people getting so many emails, the deciding factor of opening the email is the sender name and the subject line. So people click on open or delete based on who the sender is and what is the subject line. So if you know the sender, the possibility is people are going to read the subject line. When they move to the subject line, if the email says, Nitin, we have an offer for you, or it states, dear member, we have an offer, it does not work. So if you can offer as much personalization as possible, so like I live in South Delhi and the offer states that we have an offer for you in South Delhi, in your location, in your area. Now that's interesting. I would actually end up opening the email and see, okay, what's happening in my area? What's the offer?
So the enhancement of relevancy towards the recipient is the key.
Yes.
And this is something that I've heard quite a lot from you as well, Sam.
So I believe that Nitin has already, talked about how to make sure that your subject lines work. Personalization is the way to go.
Now, this behavioral analysis, as you're mentioning, we know that the technology is there, but how actively is it being deployed or being utilized, let's say, in the Indian market?
So I believe that, people are slowly moving towards it. And ESP has to play its role as well. We have to give segmented reports as well, which we are working towards. And even the organizations will have to also mature and segment their database.
Right. Nitin, is this something that you actively look towards?
Absolutely. So what we have done is we have various buckets of users. We have around 10 odd buckets, and each bucket is divided based on user behavior. So we know what user reacts to which product. And we use this opportunity to cross-sell and upsell to users whose behavior is known to us. And we're proactively using this service.
Okay, so now creation of a emailer is one thing. You make it look good, you make sure the subject line is there, it's personalized, everything is right. But there are technical considerations to be factored in for an email marketer. Something like domain reputation, maintenance of that, domain rotation. As an ESP, Sam, how do you think that sort of, the importance of that is rising in the Indian context?
Okay, so we have already talked about the reputation of IPs and how important it is to make sure that the email lands into the inbox. Now comes domain reputation as well. So the from email address is really important to make an email land into the inbox. And to check the domain reputation is again ESP's responsibility. The only thing here is that right now Indian marketers are using multiple ESPs at the same time. So we really don't know what you are doing at some other ESP, and we have to keep a check on domain of the clients.
What's your take on this, Nitin? You in agreement with most of this?
Well, on domain reputation, I would say that it decides whether your mail ends up in your mailbox or in your spam folder. Because various email providers use open RBLs. RBLs are real-time black hole list, which they use to block spammers and 419ers. 419ers are those who send you emails stating that you've won $40 million odd dollars. And on the side of domain rotation, it becomes essential because if you keep on sending emails from the same email address on a daily basis and you don't see a reaction from a user for more than 7 days in a row, you risk of ending yourself in the spam folder. Once it happens with one mail provider, it will, after a month, it will roll out to other mail providers. So it's better you opt for domain rotation only if you plan to send emails more than once a week.
Across the industry, there are different requirements. So as an ESP, Sam, what would your recommendations be for different kinds of companies across different industry verticals in terms of their email marketing frequency or email campaign frequency? What would you ideally suggest to email marketers?
Setting up expectation with the user base is really important.
Right.
If so you will have to ask the end user what they are signing up for, whether they want a daily deal or a weekly deal. So you will have to respect the privacy of the end user as well.
Right. So this is interesting. So setting the expectations, Nitin, in terms of mailing frequency and setting the expectations, is there a direct correlation?
Certainly. So if your daily deal side, then it's important you have a double opt-in strategy. So when a user provides their email address, you must send an email to that user, get it verified. Because if you don't do that, your email is definitely going in the spam folder.
It sometimes so happens that people might opt in at one point of time because they might be interested in what it is that you're selling or talking about, but those preferences might change over time. As an ESP, Sam, what is it that you usually suggest to your clients and try to promote and educate in terms of unsubscribe and the importance that it holds?
So as a CAN spam compliant ESP, from my platform, you cannot shoot out a campaign without an unsubscribe link. So it is mandatory for
And is it mandatory across all ESPs in India?
it is mandatory with Octane and some other ESPs in India as well who are complying with CAN spam laws.
Right, Nitin. And as I understand, and this conversation that we had earlier, wherein you were explaining the sort of importance of this unsubscribe link, even to the level of where ideally it should be placed in terms of how it increases the reputation of that particular mailer.
So, as we always talk about domain reputation, unsubscribe link reputation is also very important in an email. So, my advice is to email marketers is to place the unsubscribe link on top of the mailer. If you have it in the top 45-degree area of the email, the probability of your email being delivered to the inbox increases. The other thing is the behavior of the user, why the preferences changed, why is that user unsubscribing. You must take the feedback of the user so that you can study all these types of users. Why did they unsubscribe? What could you do to ensure that they come back to you as a subscriber?
And does that actively work? Users coming back as subscribers if you play, if you do it right?
I've not noticed many marketers who've done a good job in getting people to subscribe back again. I don't want to mention the name of the client I had, but it has worked in the past, definitely.
So, in generic terms, what would you say they did right? I mean, as a company or as an email marketer at that point of time.
So what we noticed was there were a lot of email addresses that were becoming inactive, and we were having around 5% of users acquired 6 to 12 months ago unsubscribing. So we went through an aggressive study for 45 odd days to study those 5% of users who were unsubscribing. And what we noticed was when we started working on the behavior of those users, we were able to determine what problems lied in the emails that we were sending to these types of users. When we improved our emailers, the ratio from 5% reduced to 3%.
So even if people are leaving you, that still gives us scope as marketers to sort of
improve further,
understand why it's happening. Right. Okay. So we've created emails, we've sent them, we've taken care of domain reputations, domain rotations. We've also tried to understand why people might unsubscribe. So if Sam, I can have a few words from you about database security, about your list security.
So as an ESP, we try to tell all our clients that it's not a bad idea to have a lot of your own internal email IDs within the mailing list. So the moment it is compromised through an ESP, you would be the first person to know it.
And once a list does get compromised, anybody who might be purchasing that list to do email marketing on that, they will, I think, definitely find a reduction in value to a large extent because those people would have never anticipated hearing from this new party. And so the returns that one can ideally expect from such a list would be greatly diminished.
Absolutely. Because the company that has spent marketing dollars in collecting the data will get more value than anybody else who's just paying X fee and sending spam.
Right, and that qualifies, completely as spam.
Yes.
There are no two ways about that.
No.
So we briefly touched about analysis of campaigns and results. If you're using an ESP for the first time as an email marketer and you're sending a first campaign, how important does it become to sort of really analyze the results of that campaign when you're planning the second one?
So when you're doing a campaign for the first time and you're new to email marketing, the interval between two campaigns is very important. So the first emailer that I would propose that one should do is a single product mailer. If it's an e-commerce company, then you should focus on a single product mailer. And duration between first mailer and the second mailer should be at least 14 days. The reason being why so much interval is required is because you need to give time to the ESP to evaluate your campaign. And if you try to send a campaign very closely to the first campaign, the ESP may not be able to give you the right results of how the campaign will shape up in the future. So first to maybe fourth campaign, you need to look upon the ESP as the father of your campaign, because they would be the best people to advise of how it's going on, because they see day in, day out campaigns of various industries, and they definitely have the experience of understanding what campaign works and what does not work. So they would be able to guide what subject line, what product should be included. And moving to the second mailer, one should experiment with couple of products, not more than that. Slowly add more and more products. This would give more value in terms of what is working, what is not working.
So, as we had also talked about right now about those subscriber lists and database, we talked about database security. So, as if somebody is just starting out with email marketing and they're still building their list, there's that aspect of utilizing social media towards getting people to opt in or to register to receive your newsletters, perhaps, or to receive information from you. How feasible or important or useful do you think a Facebook page or a Twitter feed might be when trying to sort of build your own organic list?
I've seen a lot of times that people have a lot of likes on a Facebook page, but they are not converting them. With an ESP like Octane, there are plugins available wherein you can just implement it on your Facebook page, and when someone subscribe on the Facebook page, the email ID is populated in your list, which is residing at Octane.
So, Nitin, as a client, as an e-commerce company or an email marketer, you think social media pages have that value to add towards, your email marketing efforts?
Absolutely. We are reaching almost 1 million likes on our Facebook page, and we're proactively using Facebook for social email as well, where we are using a plugin where every time somebody likes it, we inform that thank you for subscribing to our list as well. And that gets added to our database.
Right. And how has the response been in terms of your subscribers?
So once they accept it, a notification is sent to them and they have to opt in.
Right.
And once they've opted in, then we start sending them mailers. And of course, transactions comes after a period of, I presume around after 25 emails, you see a transaction.
But would you also have special offers only for social media clients?
Yes.
And how do they work? How's the response to them?
It works pretty well. So we know what users liked us on what offer. So based on the behavior, they're inserted in appropriate lists. So when they're given offers, even in the future, they're targeted.
So, Sam, one last thing from you, if I can sort of try to understand, and this is something that I've had as a question in my head for a long time. When you're sort of building up this list, continuing on the same track, when you're building up an email database organically and you're capturing information, what do you think essentially an email marketer should keep in mind and capture along with the email address while this opt-in process is happening? And why do you think that's important?
So it's very unfortunate to see that marketers are missing out on the timestamp and IP address when the registration is happening. Because tomorrow, when a complaint will come for spam, then this is the only medium through which you can tell your ISP that the person is registered with me. Here is the IP address. Here is the timestamp. You can backtrack it and see what activity happens here. And this is the part of basic hygiene now. We have been educating all our clients to capture IP addresses.
Right. So this is very interesting. So we get spam complaints, but there might also be cases, because of the large number of emails involved, that sometimes genuinely opted in users might mark your emails as spam. Nitin, have you come across such cases, and how does it affect your sort of email campaign planning in that regard?
Certainly, there have been a lot of cases where we've received emails where people have marked email as spam, and then we have to send the IP address, timestamp, even the order details and the address of the user where the order was delivered. And it's a very common habit. People, instead of clicking on the unsubscribe link, they simply click on mark as spam.
So as
People actually tend to forget as well with a lot of e-commerce websites in India.
yeah.
They would register today and forget it completely tomorrow.
Right. Okay. So we've covered a whole range of things here pertaining to the importance of email marketing, pertaining to the best practices that one should follow. And it's sort of, there are many things that people need to keep in mind. So as a way of signing off, is each of you had, one thing to sort of advise as a tip, as a, signature tip to sign off with, for other email marketers, what would it be? If you can start with Nitin.
My favorite advertising tool is email marketing. So ensure you don't spam and send more and more personalized emails.
So believe in email. Email is the key.
Absolutely.
Sam?
Yeah, so engagement is very important. You have to engage with your user base and not spam them. So once you start engaging with them, you would make sure that a lot of opens would happen over a particular campaign.
Right, excellent. Wise words. And with that, I think we can wrap up the proceedings here. Thank you so much, Nitin, and thank you so much, Sam, for being a part of this webcast. And we hope in the future we get a chance to talk about other interesting things like this again.